Hi, I'm Josh, and this is how my short film got over 3 million views and the story of how I almost didn't finish it. So, back in 2015, I created this fan concept trailer for Miles Morales Spider Man for my local Tidewater Comic Con, and that video ended up getting over 800,000 views currently. And it inspired me to really want to make a short film about Miles Morales because at the time he was kind of a new character and there weren't any live action or many fan films out for him. So I took it upon myself. I was inspired. Man, I want to make a short film about this character. So I ended up coming up with this grand idea with some friends of mine to create this epic short film, 30-minute short film. I was like, man, it's going to cost $10,000. We're going to have all these sets, all these costumes, this story. And I created a Kickstarter campaign, and it completely failed. The campaign, I don't know, maybe raised $200. I don't know. It was not a success at all. And I had spent so much time, developing a crew, coming up with the story, and it just kind of all fell apart because we didn't get the funding that we needed. And so from there, I was like, you know what? Let me simplify, make something a little more manageable. I tried to put together a short film rather quickly that was not really inspired, but kind of just something to put something together. And that ended up falling apart. And then I tried to make a whole web series. I was like, okay, I have this concept, want to incorporate elements of Spider-Verse. This is in 2016 now. And I'm like, man, I wanted to tell this little web series. I think we can do it. Try to pull it off. We did maybe one shoot, and things just were not falling together. It was like this 4-episode web series, probably each episode about 10 minutes long, and it just would not come together. So at that point, I was like, okay, this isn't working. The idea that it wasn't inspired is not working. The whole grandiose thing is not working. What can I do? So I decided to create a tighter short film, something that was, I think, about 7 to 8 pages long, really tight story, and went out and shoot it. Got some friends together. We went out and shot the short film. Got it back. I was in the editing room like, hey, let's go. And I looked at the footage and I was like, this sucks. I did the rough draft of the film, shared it with a couple of people that worked on the project, and we're just like, this is not working. Went out and shot a new scene, tried to add the new scene in. It just wasn't working, man. And I was really discouraged at this point. I'm like, man, I just really want to tell Miles Morales' story, and the film keeps falling apart. And then I prayed, and then I was like, okay, what if I used the voiceover aspect from like the Ultimate Spider-Man series and use that as like something to glue the film together, make it less serious. I was trying to make this completely serious, dark short film with Miles struggling with this villain. And I was like, you know what, let me lighten the tone, make it fun, and make it more enjoyable to watch versus trying to make it this dark epic. And once I did that, things really started to come together. I started to really enjoy the process. The shooter of the film, Denzel, came over on the last day to help me with the color of the film. We were just kind of working on it. And it finally came together. I put it out, and I think within the first month, it may have got 200,000 views or something along those lines. And by the year by the year after it came out, it had over 1 million views. And now it has over 3.2 million views. And so that was kind of the story. And there was some kind of big lessons I learned that maybe can help you with your short film to maybe help it go viral, or maybe just to help it make it better. And one of the biggest things is to create what you're passionate about. I learned this in film school. I had tried to do a short film for my senior project, and I just was not feeling the story. And I tried to push through it anyways, and I just disliked how the film came out. Now, I ended up making it work and made it the best that it could be, but I just wasn't passionate about that story. And so when you're creating things that you're not really passionate about, you do not have that drive or the will to really see a project go through. And so I was super passionate about Spider-Man Miles Morales, and that made me have the resilience to keep going rather than just trying to throw a project together or throw something together. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing projects like that, but make sure it's something that you care about, you're passionate about, that you want people to see, because that passion, that fire, that fervor will come through on the screen, because people will be able to tell that you were really invested in this project, even if it's not this grandiose film. Because I mean, the short film was like a low budget short film. You know, we didn't shoot on a Red Epic. We shot on like a Canon, T4i or something like that with a 24-70 lens. But yet it still got over 3 million views because people connected with it and can see the passion behind it. Another big thing that can help is to plan ahead of time. All the VFX shots in the film, I basically had planned ahead how I was going to shoot them. I'm not really a VFX artist, but I had done enough, with tinkering with different short films to kind of figure out how we were going to shoot it. I watched tutorial videos. I'm like, okay, we got to pull this off this way. We have to shoot it right. That way, when you're in post, you're not having to make something out of nothing. So definitely plan ahead of time, playing your shots. I was also acting in the short film, so I had to basically storyboard and shot list everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten enough coverage to complete the short film. So basically, the entire thing was shot listed and storyboarded because there was 3 or 4 or 5 action scenes or action bits that were all after each other. So we had to know exactly what we were doing. I had worked with some people beforehand to kind of plan out some stunts. And there was just a lot of preparation before we shot the short film to kind of help making the short film come together, because we shot most of this film literally in one day. I think pretty much the whole film was shot in one day over like 10 or 11 hours. We were in one location, or 2 locations, but mostly one location, and we were running around scrambling. If we had not planned ahead of time, there's no way we would have been able to pull that short film off. And also another thing, if you're going to ask people to work on the project for free, make it as easy as possible for them. So with this short film, we only have one day of shooting. So it's like, hey, just come out for one day, we'll shoot it. And then for the VFX, because we planned everything out, I only asked 2 other people to help with the VFX. And, I gave them maybe like 3 or 4 shots a piece. So that way the work was spread out and no one person was burdened with having to do the entire VFX for the film. And I ended up doing some of the other shots myself. And so one of the guys that actually worked on the VFX actually ended up doing the TMNT Ronin animation years later. So congrats to him. And so, but yeah, one of the biggest things is if you're gonna ask people to do something for free, make sure you take care of them and make their workload as easy as possible. Again, like if you are making a big ask, just make sure there's something in it for them as well. Like either they can put that on their reel, or there's a way that they can market it to market themselves, whatever. Just try to make a win-win situation for people if you're going to ask a favor like that. Another big thing is get feedback on your films. I know a lot of time as artists, we can be tied up in our project and not wanting others to give their input. But the biggest thing that helped me through this film was getting feedback, because I, helped write it, because I acted in it, and because I directed it, and I was editing it. I was so engrossed in what was going on. So what I would do is I would do edits, and then I would send it to my producers that worked on the project as like accountability to kind of figure out where the film really was. So it wasn't just like my opinion. Not that there's something wrong with that, but it's good to have outside feedback so you can really gauge how people are responding to something. And that outside feedback really helped me to push through to finish the film, and also helped me realize the areas that were weak in the film. And so without that feedback, I don't know if I would have been able to get out of the hole that I was in, but that constant feedback and wanting to make something the best that it could be, was good. And with that, there was also another lesson, is cut out what doesn't work. If there's something not working in your short film, just cut it out if possible, and maybe reshoot if you need to. There were some scenes in the film that we had wrote, and then when we shot it, it really wasn't working. And so I cut it out of the film, number one, to help keep engagement. And number two, because I'm like, man, this really just sucks. Like, this is not either crucial to the plot, or it's just making something look a little more cheesy than it needs to be. I just cut it out of the film, and that really helped to make it interesting. Because when you're making a short film, especially for the online space, like, it should be interesting. It should be interesting for people to watch. And that's really something that I wanted to aspire to in my edits and in my filmmaking, was to make things, number one, that I was passionate about, that I cared about, and also that would be interesting to someone else. The short film is not a masterpiece, but it did have an effect. I mean, I remember going to my local Tidewater Comic-Con after the short film came out, and people recognized me from the video. I was at my local grocery store, and someone was like, "Yo, are you Spider-Man from The Thing?" I was at a convention one day, and somebody came up and recognized me, completely different. It wasn't even a Comic-Con convention. So you never know what effect can have on people if you just continue to press forward, do what you're passionate about, and complete the work that you set out to do. A lot of filmmakers end up with projects that they haven't finished. Personally, I kind of really despise that. Personally, like, I really want to make sure if I start something, I'm going to finish it. And even if it may suck, just put it out. You're getting reps in, you're getting practice in, and it can be helpful for you for the future. And at the time, and this is more of a business thing per se, but at the time, there wasn't really any Miles Morales short films out there. And so there was like this audience that was craving Miles Morales content, but no one was making it. And so I stepped in and decided to, make the short film. And again, there were a few that were out there, so I can't say there weren't any, because there were some great short films, but there wasn't like the huge, fan films as there were for Peter Parker back in that time. And so, think about it. If there is a genre that you really love, or a subgenre that's not really being served, and you really love that genre, maybe make a short film that's set in that subgenre. And that could help to build your audience as a filmmaker as well, because it's an underserved audience. There's a market for it. And that could become your calling card as a filmmaker. Not to just create stuff to create stuff that you don't like, but if you're really passionate about, like, a genre I really love is like suburban sci-fi. I want to make a suburban sci-fi short film at some point, a sci-fi premise in a normal, suburban setting. But if there's an underserved genre that you really love and you want to make something, go ahead and make it. And so those would be, I think, the lessons that I learned that I think helped my short film go viral. A lot of it was the right place at the right time. And I think also just persistence and passion. Those two things will take you a long way. So hopefully more videos will be coming from me. So make sure you subscribe, and peace.